Hello, my name is Daniel Black, and I'm the Associate Conductor of the Florida Orchestra. I'm here to introduce our 5th concert to be rebroadcast on WSMR this Thursday at 7 p.m. The concert was from November of last year, and it marked my debut on the Masterworks series with the Florida Orchestra. We called this program Winter Dreams because all 3 pieces were by composers from a northern climate. The first one is by Vivian Fong, a Canadian composer, and it's called Fanfare. This piece was commissioned by the Alabama Symphony to celebrate the retirement of their longtime principal trumpet player and features a beautiful and plaintive trumpet solo. It also showcases Vivian's incredible talent for orchestral color, both in the kind of textures that she's able to get and just the different combinations of sound, which are really special. The second piece on the program is the Violin Concerto by the Finnish composer Jean Sibelius, featuring the young superstar American violinist Benjamin Beilman. And this concerto is one of my favorite violin concertos in the entire repertoire. It's of course very difficult, technically demanding for the soloist, as all concertos are, but why I love it is because it goes so much beyond that and has incredible depth of emotion, incredible depth of feeling as well. This is a piece where every note is important. It opens up in the first movement with the violin melody coming almost out of nowhere, very soft, very high. It sounds almost like the echo of a melody coming through mist and snow on an austere landscape. This kind of austerity is a real hallmark of Sibelius's composition. Of course, the music builds from there and becomes very passionate and exciting, sometimes very lyrical. The second movement showcases Sibelius' talent for creating simple melodies with relatively simple chordal accompaniment that nevertheless have incredible emotional content, each note with dripping with meaning. And the third movement of this concerto is a raucous, boisterous, almost peasant-like rondo with a driving melody in the timpani and the strings supporting the soloist. And the last piece on the program is a lesser-known work by a famous composer, the First Symphony by Peter Tchaikovsky. Now, when he wrote this piece, Tchaikovsky was just finishing from his studies at the St. Petersburg Conservatory. He had almost his whole life in front of him, his whole career. And that dramatic pathos, that incredible tragic emotion that we associate with Tchaikovsky, the events in his life that this was based on really had not happened yet. He was still a relatively optimistic and confident composer at this time. But he had never attempted anything quite as large or complex as this symphony, and so it caused him a lot of trouble. His brother Modeste even wrote that he had never struggled afterwards with a composition as much as he struggled to write this work. And it has a title. The symphony is called Winter Dreams, but it's not programmatic in the sense that it doesn't tell a story from beginning to end. More, it's like a symphony of landscapes. The first movement especially has very, very evocative sounds in the orchestra. You can almost hear the sleigh bells chiming on a troika. That's a Russian sleigh with 3 horses. You can hear snowflakes falling. The second movement has a more lyrical character and a very long, extended melody. And this perhaps is Tchaikovsky's reminiscence of his mother, who had passed away when he was about 12 years old and who he loved very much as a child. The third movement is a scherzo, but it's got an ethereal, elvish quality to it, and more than a little bit of similarities with some of the works of Mendelssohn, especially the Midsummer Night's Dream. And in the finale of this symphony, Tchaikovsky used a Ukrainian folk song. He was trying to give the symphony a Russian national character. Now, at the time that he composed this symphony, there really was not a long tradition of classical music in Russia, and he was one of the generation of composers who was really coming up with that as they went. And so he was very consciously trying to create a Russian sound, and he did this by borrowing music from the countryside, in this case from the Ukrainian countryside near where his family had a home, and using that in classical composition. Now, being the first symphony that he composed, it has a little bit of rough edges. Maybe it lacks some of the polish of his later works. But as my teacher in St. Petersburg told me, and this was when I studied also at the St. Petersburg Conservatory, although Tchaikovsky may have been more technically skillful when he composed the second and third symphony, when he composed the first symphony, he was inspired. And I think you'll be also inspired to hear this incredible early work by Tchaikovsky. Thanks very much and enjoy the concert.